Say hello. 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 Oh, look at it. Oh, should I go in that one?
I'm not even holding. Dad, I'm not even holding anything.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Werribee Open Range Zoo. My name is Belle, and I'm going to be your guide out on safari today. Now, before we go too far, can you all give me a very big wave if you can hear me loud and clear? Fantastic, thank you, everyone. Is that the last day of school holidays for a lot of you? Yeah. Nice way to spend your last day. Now, just before we head off, there's a few important things to cover. It's really important to stay seated at all times on safari, even if there's a good photo or they're on the other side of the bus. Please just watch from your seat. Please don't eat or drink on the bus except for water. If you have an emergency, there's a contact number at the front of your carriage and those back carriages. If you drop something though, please don't call me, just let me know at the end of the tour. I'd highly suggest popping away loose items, hats, sunglasses, kids' toys, that type of thing, because unfortunately we can't stop to get anything back that gets dropped, even mobile phones. So just make sure you keep everything inside the bus, including all your body parts, hands and arms and toddlers' legs. Alrighty, well, that's all the important information. Now, it's time to sit back and relax and enjoy seeing our animals. So let's go on safari.
Because you'd be so upset if you lost me.
Yes, and I want to.
So we're visiting 3 areas today, our grasslands, onto our waterhole woodland, and then finally to our African savanna. We're coming into our very first area now,
Look over here.
which is our grasslands or arid zone.
Other side of it.
Now we've got camels on both sides of us. They're a pretty amazing animal. So unfortunately we have lots of feral camels in Australia, which we don't want, but as an animal they're incredible. So they can store energy in their hump, so a little bit like us walking around with a backpack full of snacks. They can drink all the water in your bath all at once, so hundreds of litres in less than 5 minutes if they have to. And that means they can then go for a big long walk across the desert without having to eat or drink, which is why they can spread so far and wide. Now, is there any good baby animal spotters on the bus? Because keep your eyes peeled to the left. There is a couple of little oryx amongst this group here. You can see they've got smaller horns and they're much shorter. Thankfully for mum, they're not born with horns because that would be a logistical challenge. And then they just grow as they grow. So you can tell the older ones, the mature adults, they have that beautiful curved horn on their head that's shaped like a scimitar sword. So that's where they get their name, scimitar horned oryx.
Look at them, Daddy.
Yeah, they're cool.
Cool. The Taki have moved since my last tour. So these horses are called Mongolian wild horse, or their traditional Mongolian name is Taki.
That looks awesome. They're little and sturdy.
And they were actually once thought to be gone from the planet forever, but they found a tiny little population in captivity and started a big breeding program. And now there's actually wild Taki on the grasslands in Mongolia again, which is very exciting.
Minky's on my seat.
Yeah, just pay attention so I don't want to lose me. Fortunately, you got another Mickey at home, right? Levi, you got your Mickey, yeah?
There's another one. Mine.
Oh, so that's the only one.
And I have a soft other Mickey. So I have a spare Mickey.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, we don't want to lose
If
it.
I look back in the breeze though, I'm just screaming because I don't look back.
Bruce
You
is
can see the
nice.
other ones.
Levi, Bruce is nice.
Alright, well we are heading towards a river crossing. Now sometimes if you're lucky, you can spot some animals in this water. See how you go though, they're pretty good at hiding. So these are a big grey animal that loves the water, does a good rock impersonation. Any guesses?
Rhino.
Hippo. Now, if you can't see the hippos here, please don't stress because you can actually head down to Hippo Beach and spot our hippos down there after the tour.
Not in the little big worry. They're pretty territorial. What's the animal that kills most humans in Africa? No. It's what's the animal that kills most humans in Africa? No. The hippo. It's the
You
hippo.
can actually spot both of them at the moment. This is Brindabella and Pansy on the left, doing their best rock look.
Are we in the water?
Look in the center.
We're in the water. Oh, there's duckies.
You just sort of see their backs.
Imagine running over a hippo.
You're like,
That's how they keep the water nice and fresh. Can you see how the water's dripping through? Oh, look over there. Oh, there's birds over there.
I'm guessing there'll be lots of snakes in there.
And I love the blackberries too. Yeah, for some of these blackberries are getting ripe, but we've still got a while to go, don't we?
We can eat them.
Yeah, I kept an eye on them. I think we've got another 2 weeks.
As we come into our waterhole area, keep your eyes peeled for a rather large bird. Now they are easy to confuse with the Australian emu, but these are female ostrich.
Tell me what it is. I forgot the name of that.
We might spot some boys later on, and they're a very different look. They are shiny black. But this works pretty well for our animals because they take it in terms of sitting on the nest, and the boys sit on the nest at night time, and the girls sit on the nest during the day. So they're both camouflaging when they're on egg sitting duty. And if you keep your eyes peeled to the right, in a moment you might actually spot some ostrich eggs.
Oh, they're huge.
So the eggs? Hold on.
Now I love ostrich, they're beautiful. They have lovely long eyelashes, beautiful big eyes, but they're not the most clever birds in the bird world because most of their head space is taken up with eyeballs. There's very little space left for the brain. It's around a pea to a walnutty kind of size.
It is going to be gone.
I put Minky right here so she's laying down.
Alright, okay. You should be sitting down, darling.
I'm holding here.
Can you see anyone else? It's always a great good.
Alright, we are going to head towards our African savannah.
Why are we in the box?
There's never going to be animals there. So it won't when it's hanging out. Have a look over there, right?
We're going to cross over the Werribee River in a moment. So it's really quite pretty. It's a wildlife corridor. So wildlife corridors are really important. They're long strips of vegetation that connect our parks and reserves together so that animals can move around, find a girlfriend, boyfriend, new territory, food, water. And when we get to the top of the hill, over the other side of the bridge, keep your eyes peeled for Texas Longhorn, bulls, so a big cattle breed. And also you might spot some male Indian antelope in with the Texas Longhorn. But we're going to keep on going and head down to our savannah. So I'll let you sit back, relax and have a chat amongst yourselves. And we'll talk a little bit more when we get to our next lot of animals on the savannah. Few bumps.
Up in the hill, up in the hill. Now look at this. Look, oh, look at that. Wow.
Pretty impressive, aren't they?
Oh God, are you? Oh. Big white one, Dad, and a big one. I get
Oh, look at that. Yellow.
And they're not different types of ones. They get along with each other. Werribee related. Here we go.
Rena, next, Rena.
Now keep your eyes peeled to the left as we make our way around the top, because you might start to spot some of the animals that we're going to head down and go and say hello to shortly.
Giraffe. There's dinosaurs.
I've been having safety as an animal. I'm a bit nervous.
We would have windows here if there was a window.
Maybe do that.
With a wax.
Yeah.
I don't know where we are, but I'm glad I brought them.
Oh, you can see the boy on. They're the ones who've got black. The boys have what colour feathers as well? What colour
Oh,
feathers
the
do the boy
giraffe
on?
over there, Sam. See the giraffe over there?
Because they look after the eggs.
The hand of that trail over there. Giraffe.
I couldn't told you all
I did sweat up. Just wait for a bit longer. It's a bit bumpy. But, yep, it's in the bag. It's, so it's going to be very, very not breathing.
Look at this, Sammy. Look at this. A deer.
Okay, so small animals. See if you can see. Interesting animals, aren't they?
These are waterbuck tucked into the right hand side here. You don't see them very often. They're usually chilling out up the top here, hidden. They have a bit of a weird and wonderful adaptation for dealing with predators. So they'll actually run straight into water, and they pretty much very patiently wait for the predator to give up and leave. So they have a nice waterproofing oil to help them stay in the water for so long. Makes them a bit more comfortable. Apparently it's also very stinky.
Oh.
So I always imagine it's like extreme wet dog smell, and it can help to deter the predators as well.
over there.
No, look at this. Oh, Jesus.
I'm the only one that saw it first, though. Like zebra. Oh, we're going down.
Wow.
So we're just going to go down a
like we
small
went to
but
the zoo
steep
and you
hill.
guys were so
And we've
busy.
got beautiful views of our savannah out to the left-hand side. And it's the natural floodplain of the Werribee River. But if you are holding someone little on your knee, just hold on to them as we make our way down this hill. We'll only go very slowly, but it's just quite steep.
Hold on.
Baby, you better not drop my phone.
Slip down.
Mom, luckily I have a seatbelt.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's actually working.
Alright, good.
Hold on to me.
Well, welcome to our African savannah. It is where all the biggest animals at the zoo live.
Oh, there's lots of
What kind of animals are looking for?
Oh, you are all in for a treat as well. Our brand new addition to the zebra family is tucked into the left-hand side there, next to the tree. So he's just walked behind Mum. He's very good at camouflaging in next to her because he's got big long legs. So his body's at almost the same height as she is. Even though he's tiny, he's been able to keep up with her since basically the first hour that he was born. So he's just running in the grass to the left there behind the trees if you haven't spotted him yet.
Left there, still the one who's bouncing away and bounding away.
This is two of our younger girls from last year in this little depression here. These two girls, zebras. So you can tell that they're teenagers basically. See how they're still fluffy and a lighter, more of a brown colour on some parts of their bodies. They haven't quite got the, they're not quite at full size and they don't have the dark stripes yet.
When we're fighting.
This really impressive looking antelope species is called an eland. And they're not actually fenced in that area. They can get out the back section. It's just to keep the giraffe out because that's they would eat all the shade otherwise.
Wow.
I see they have very.
Now eland are incredibly strong and tough. So you'll notice the girls and the boys both have horns. They're all really muscly. They can actually use those muscles to jump over the height of an adult human. And they can kill a lion with a kick from those legs if they need to. So there's not too many predators that would pick a fight with an eland.
Yeah.
So if you haven't spotted the baby zebra, it is just in behind those trees again over to the left.
He doesn't.
But I spy with my little eye the heaviest animal at the zoo. This is an animal that has a horn.
Rhino!
It is our rhino. So we've got two girls, so Grandma Marque and granddaughter Kepenzi, and a male called Kafaru. So we are hoping that Kepenzi, the younger girl, she's about 8 or 9 now, and Kafaru might become boyfriend and girlfriend. We'll just have to wait and see. Because white rhinos are endangered in most places that they live, so every little baby that's born is an important part of the insurance population for this species. So they're going to be on the left. They've got really great hearing, so I might stop talking. And you can see if you can get a good view, spot their horns, their muddy backs, little tufts of fur on their ears.
I see it.
Oh my goodness. This is a big
Violet. Not appropriate.
We're just not stopping for too long next to them today because they're looking a little bit frisky. So I saw our male had his tail up in the air and he's curling it around. So that basically means when he's looking like that, he's a bit overexcited. So sometimes that can mean he might see our bus as a bit of a threat and say, get out of my territory. So it is an important part of our job to look at the way the animals are behaving. It's also, I can't believe that they've flopped down in that tiny little water hole and they've got heaps of better ones, but it's obviously the best spot to get as much mud as they can. So you would have noticed that she was rolling around, covering herself in mud, and that is to help cool down. And then once that mud dries, it will become nice natural sunscreen.
What are we seeing there? Right
Wow. Oh my god, it's a bright on
They're all pretty well camouflaged, aren't they?
They look
How many giraffe do we have, kid?
How many now?
3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Where? What are those?
Oh my god.
Oh.
So that's our keepers out in that car. At least a few of them were the keepers anyway.
It's called
It's like in the tree trunk. Is it small?
And we're just going to do a little lap around and then we'll come back past the giraffe again. And they'll be on the other side of the bus. So we've got 5 male giraffe here at the zoo. We're also going to go past our male ostrich. So you can see they're quite different to the girls. So not only does it help them camouflage at night time, they also have those pretty shiny feathers so that they can do an impressive dance for the lady ostrich and say, look how beautiful I am, won't you please be my girlfriend?
Oh, but they're not.
Alright, now kids,
It's an os.
do you want to stick your tongue out of your mouth and see if you can reach your nose with your tongue? How'd you go? Could you reach? It's a bit tricky, isn't it? So a few people can do it. A little bit of a party trick. But most of us can't get our tongue all the way to our nose. But a giraffe can not only touch their nose with their tongue, they can pick their nose with their tongue.
Oh.
Yeah. Guess it's a handy trick though if you don't have any fingers. And then we also saw our rhinos, and you look at their horns, and their horns is made of a special thing called keratin. So if you want to put your hands in the air and touch the hair on your head and touch your fingernails, you're touching the same thing that rhino horn is made from.
Wow, you're touching a lot of keratin.
Now it looks like our keepers might have been around and put out some food for the giraffes. So they've got some food up in their basket. So they get all different types of food. So some of it could be important to make sure they get the right nutrition. Other stuff could be to get different tastes. So when an animal grazes, they eat all day long grass down on the ground. An animal that's a browser is basically doing the same thing, but they're eating food that's up higher off the ground. So shrubs and trees. And so they call it browse when they bring down these fresh branches for the giraffe. As you can see, they strip them pretty quickly and they get lots of fresh branches throughout the day. So they do fence off some of the areas so that we keep the shade for the other animals, but then they bring down lots of extra food as well. And this means that they can get all sorts of different tastes in food. So they were having a bit of a lick of the top of that car to see what it tasted like. They're actually quite curious, giraffe. Now if you look at their lips, they can actually use them a little bit like claspers. So their tongue is very long. That's the reason why they can pick their nose. It's nearly as long as your fingertip to your elbow. So they can stretch it up nice and high to reach those branches up in the trees, and then pull it back in with their tongue, wrapping their tongue around their food, and they can help it a little bit with the clasping of their lip as well. Let's see if you can spot. Can you see that they've actually got a blue tongue that they're throwing around?
Probably.
Can you have a guess why they might have a blue tongue? So keeping in mind that their favourite activity is eating, and they spend about 18 hours a day reaching for food or chewing the cud that they have regurgitated. So they actually think it might help stop their tongue from getting sunburnt. So help protect it from the sun because it spends so much time out of their mouth. Alright, well unfortunately it is time to say farewell to our savannah. So you might like to wave goodbye, say bye giraffe, see you next time rhinos. Yeah, so that's our boy rhino that our other bus is just moving away from. Had a feeling he was in a bit of a frisky kind of mood. Down at the fence there, they do training with our giraffe. So all of our training that we do with our animals it's at the choice and control of the animal, so they can participate if they want to, or not participate, stay for a long time or a short time. But it's usually done to help make healthcare stress-free. So they do lots of enrichment with the animals, which is giving them fun things to play with and to do and change around, and that's simply for fun. The training is generally, they usually quite enjoy it anyway because it involves tasty treats, but it's usually got another sort of end goal or purpose as far as healthcare goes. And so with the giraffes, they do target training. They bring their head down near a little ball and a stick. It means their head is nice and close to the keepers. They can do a visual check over of their health while they're paused waiting for their treat, and then they get their treat. And so that's called target training, and that if you watched Megazoo you'll have seen this, but it means they can do things like an x-ray of a giraffe's teeth. They can say target, puts his head down, bang, took the x-ray, didn't know any different. A big goal as well of our keepers is being able to hand inject our animals wherever possible, because darts can be quite stressful for an animal. And so recently with our hippos, for example, we've been working on them and getting them to the point where they can choose to come and have their annual injections. So essentially the way they do that, in a very short version, is they get them used to going to a certain spot to get a treat, and then they'll slowly introduce in a bit of a touch in the area where they would get injected, and so the animals start to learn that to get their food given to them in that certain spot, they have to pause for a moment, something will touch them, and then they get their treat. And so eventually, when it comes time for annual injections, the hippos know that if they choose to go and get food from that spot, something's going to touch them on their shouldery, flanky area, just gently. And so when it's time to actually do that injection, they can do that by hand while they're pausing, waiting for their treat, and they're expecting the sensation. And it's nice and easy, it's stress-free. This is no different really to our pets at home when we get them used to things like us maybe touching their paws or something like that, that you know that you have to get them essentially conditioned to it so that it's not stressful. lots of partnerships through Zoos Victoria that you're supporting by coming to visit us here at the zoo today and by being a zoo member, because we're not for profit. So a few examples is a brand new partnership, UEC, Ugandan Wildlife Education Centre. Now in Uganda, rhinos have been extinct for quite a while, in the wild, but they are really trying to hopefully turn this around. So they do have a few semi-wild populations that are being cared for. But UEC is more education focused, so they have a huge education program like Zoos Victoria does at all of our zoos. And they've actually been tasked by the Ugandan government recently with teaching all kids in Uganda about wildlife conservation, how to basically make sure we have a future rich with wildlife. Same goal as Zoos Victoria. And so that's a program, that sister relationship is about sharing information on successful education programs and caring for the rhinos as well. Because they do have some rhinos at their conservation centre or education centre. And we also do work closer to home, so 27 different species that we support conservation programs for.